you ever wanted to know who is the voice, the face behind the messages that you love so much on these social media streets, whether you've seen them on YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram, they are the top, hottest, up and coming, and established OG readers in the spiritual community. To my new show, Tarot and Talk, my new series where I take you behind the scenes, is Paul, the Perception Coach. We had technical difficulty. This was filmed during Mercury in retrograde, and I'm just listen to the conversation. We start off with inner sabotage and signs and synchronicities, and not every sign and synchronicity is yours. Listen, follow, let me know. Like, I'm sure you've experienced similar, signs and synchronicities.
Yeah.
When and other times, like, it doesn't make any sense. Sometimes you're just like, homie, I'm doing the best I can. I don't feel like I'm sabotaging myself.
What did that card say again? It said, what did it say? Self-saboteur? Is that what the card said when you flipped it
I
over?
could go show it to you. It said inner saboteur,
Inner saboteur, that's what
and
it
it
was.
had her holding something that's deader than dead, and then the dead people in the back. She had two dead people attached to her.
See, something like that, that you look at where it feels like it's clearly blatant, right? It's like you saw it and then you did some stuff and then it came like right back up again. So it's like on one hand, my mind would be like, okay, universe, are you deliberately trying to tell me something right now that I should be
Right.
really, really paying attention to so that I can self-reflect on this as if this is actually me? But then there's actually another side of me as well that when I think about synchronicities, when I think about breadcrumbs and all that good stuff, I heard this I think it was from Bashar like a long time ago, and he said this phrase that I really resonated with was that life has no inherent meaning in it. That we as conscious beings give life meaning. So whatever we
Absolutely.
see, we kind
That's
of
right.
dictate the meaning behind something specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So if I would have saw these tarot cards that says inner saboteur like twice, there's a part of me that would automatically give it a meaning and be like, whoa,
Yeah.
what is this trying to say? But then the other
Yeah.
side of it would be like, I actually get to define the meaning of this. Maybe I can also decide that this is not an actual reflection of me, or I can sit with it for a second and be like, is this me? And if it doesn't resonate or it doesn't serve me, I'll toss that to the side and I'll throw it away and I'll keep it moving without
Yeah.
sitting in that, man, because I saw it twice, this must define me all of a sudden. It's just like that doesn't have to be true. And if it doesn't make me feel good or feel better or grow, then I'm just going to toss it to the side.
I love that because I feel like what you described is exactly what I did. I'm not going to run from it, right? Like, I'm just like, okay, I saw it twice and, it's facing. So I'm going to, like, okay, receive it. I'm the type of person, and I feel like 24 years of Buddhist practice have told me you always look at things from your perspective. It's not about the other person. They're a reflection of you or a part of your life. You see what I'm saying? You don't run from your environment. You chant to transform yourself from the inside out. And what I walked away with was the latter part. I said to myself, how are you inner sabotaging yourself? Like, seriously, is this another distraction, mind fuck? You want to spend the next couple of hours beating yourself up? Because, honey, we ain't going to get the day back. It's gone. It's literally gone at this point. So we could either enjoy the night. I made myself a really nice dinner. You know what I'm saying? And I forgot about it. And I feel that I just know with me, if it's a soul lesson, then it kind of stays with
Yeah.
me. But if it's not, then I feel like you say, Paul, it's not giving it so much meaning. And in the broader spectrum, if I really thought about it, that inner saboteur card has been coming up for the collective. From the time I was in New York, which is a couple of months, right? It's been coming up, and I feel because it's the last little bit of push through where you're breaking out of the old mold of what I don't have. You're going to be able to check off goals and boxes that we have been striving for so long. Like, we are just used to, like, not having and striving, but now as you get closer to achieving that goal, whatever it is, Here comes the negativity that wants to stop you, to keep you stagnant, wants to keep you comfortable because it feels comfortable. The suffering feels comfortable, you know? So
Hmm.
I feel
Hmm.
like there's so many different sides, but the most important thing is, like you said, taking a moment to digest and checking in with self first before just dashing it away. Like, that's not for me.
Because it really it might be, and maybe you need to take a second. But after you take a second, you'd be like, it might not. You could hold space for that also. You know.
I want to talk about, because a lot of people, like, I want to say we are so much more than tarot. You don't use tarot as a divination tool, because that's really what tarot is. Tarot is a visual divination tool. For the majority of us, we don't need tarot. We can channel, we're mediums, we can give you wisdom. Your handle is an intuitive healer. So let's talk about with how you define yourself, right? Like, so much is with our name, our tag names, but also a lot has to do with what we feel is our spiritual gifts.
Hmm. For me, I got that handle specifically because number one, it's something that I had to do with myself, of understanding I had so much programming, my negative ego, toxic habits, people-pleasing habits. There's just so much that was programmed into me that I thought was my identity and I thought was a part of me. And it took what felt like lifetimes and cycles and many, many decades to start to sit with myself for a second and be like, oh, this is not me. That's not me. This is not me. And when you take away all of those things of understanding who you're not, then it's like, what are you left with after that fact? And for me,
Mm,
I pulled back everything that wasn't me. And then it was like, I don't know who I am anymore. Who
wow.
am I at this point? So then I had to start defining who I was almost from a moment to moment basis
Yes.
of seeing life, taking a circumstance, being with a person and being like, how do I feel right now? How does this make me feel? And that allowed me to discover who I actually am without some preconceived notion of who I think I am or who I want to be or anything like that.
Mm,
It's like a life by life moment will show you, just being present, who you are by the way you respond and how you think. And so as I peeled back all of the layers of myself, there was nothing left but my intuition from moment to moment.
mm,
There's nothing to actually think about. I'm just kind of in a flow state. And I think when we are in a flow state, we're receiving that kind of inner guidance, that higher guidance, that more expanded guidance. That's really who we are. And so when I'm dealing with other people from a healing perspective or a teaching perspective, it's not about me telling them, hey, this is the right way to do something, or this is the right way to be. My What I would like to do is lead you back to yourself so that you are your own guide, you are your own teacher, because it's going to be your own intuition that shows you who you are and allows you to lead the life that you want to live. So everything that I'm doing is just saying, like, hey, don't listen to me or think that what I know is right or I'm this grand person, but I want you to be able to trust yourself. Listen to yourself. Nobody around you knows you better. Nobody outside of you can tell you what's right for you or what's wrong with you. You have to do it first. So I did it. And now I'm just trying to encourage people to go within themselves and discover what their truth is away from their own programming too, because we all have programming in that way.
I want to talk about, and I feel that, like, what you're saying is, it's just, that's the step for anyone that's been through it. We go through similar and sometimes very, very different. When you talk about, like, not knowing who you are, to me, it automatically, it branches off into, I hear authenticity, I hear isolation, I hear dark night of the soul. Right now, these are terms that the collective, it floats around in the spiritual world all the time. And I want you to talk about how you actually had to go through that. Like, what did that look like? How did you become authentically yourself? We hear authenticity, and it just means that it's about being who you are, not who Paul is, not who Melissa is, not who Sarah is. It is just, what do you like to do? What do you not like to do? I think people make it so friggin' convoluted because people are so used to being copiers to get to an end goal, especially out here in these social media streets. So
Absolutely.
please talk to us about your journey from Authenticity. This is me. This is who I stand for. What does isolation look like to you and to the collective for some of the people that are going to be listening to? And do you feel that your isolation was part of that dark night of the soul, or maybe not?
Hmm. You know, what's funny is I think that I've spent most of my life not being my authentic self
Like a
because
lot of
we're taught
us.
how to be. We're growing up as a child, it's like, oh, you're a male. So this is how you need to grow up to be a man. You need to start
That's
being a man
right.
as a boy. Not even
Right.
talking about emotional maturity or expression. You're
Hmm.
black. This is how you're supposed to operate. This is how you
Right.
should be as a black person. This as a straight person, a heterosexual, like whatever it is, there's so many like labels that says this is the correct way to be. And so, as a person who had parents who were very, very strict and family members who were very, very strict, of like, you have to abide by certain guidelines because that's what's right. And if you're not
Hmm.
abiding by these guidelines, you're wrong.
Mm.
And so I spent most of my life trying to be good, do the
That's
right
right.
thing,
Be right. That's
be the
right. Fit
people
in.
pleaser, in a way. I don't want anybody to look at me negatively or have a bad effect on somebody. So I'm trying to be Mr. Perfect to everything and everybody. And when I'm trying to please everybody, there's no space and no room for me to just be myself. And so when I had to go into spiritual isolation, it was communicating to everybody, hey, I need to go away for a little while because I
Mm.
don't know who I am when I'm around all of you who are constantly trying
Wow.
to tell me who I am or dictate how I should think. I'm
The
only your
projection,
energy. I'm
the
only your
judgment.
opinions. Yeah, your projections, absolutely. And so I'm an Aquarius. We are known for
So am
detaching
I.
from negativity easily, and sometimes it could feel cold. And I've had in my younger days moments where, I just peace out on a person, with no communication, no, and just, but and no awareness also of how I'm actually affecting the other person that I'm dipping out on. So
That's a good question. I'm going to ask you. Go ahead.
maturing for me was actually learning how to communicate better and communicate
Mm.
properly as I went into the spiritual isolation rather than just ghosting everybody, but instead to say, hey, I need to step away right now for me. You're going to see me a lot less. I'm not going to be able to hang out a little bit, like I used to. I'm not going to be able to do the same things that I used to. I need to step away from everybody right now. And I need you to
Mm.
respect it. I need you to understand it. And if you don't, that's kind of out of my control. I can't really control how you feel about what I need to do for myself, but at least I know I tried to communicate and I tried to let you know what's going on with me and what I need from a respectable place and an emotional mature place to actually confront somebody and then see how they feel about it also. And only in that isolation was I able to peel back all the layers, be like, oh, this is my wife, this is my mom, this is my dad, this
Mm.
all these traits, these character traits about me don't belong to me at all, but I didn't know it because it made up my entire identity because I was living for other people. So only in
Right.
spiritual isolation was I able to take off everything that wasn't me and then start to love myself for the first time. To say that, oh, I am perfect. I'm perfectly imperfect.
That's
I'm
right.
flawed. I make my mistakes,
We all
but I'm
are.
always trying to grow. I'm always trying to learn. I have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
compassion. I know my heart, like kind of thing. And I'm not going to do everything right, but I'm gonna try. I'm always going to
Mm-hmm.
try, and that's good enough for me. Now, who else is that good enough for outside of me is up to them. But I can't hold myself to other people's validations and standards anymore. And that became my authenticity of like what's authentic to me, and I'll start there. And then everybody will show me how they reflect that and if they align with it or not. And then we'll kind of go from there.
So you mentioned that you were married. What was what was that like going through this spiritual awakening, ascension, exploration when you have joined your life with someone, you're in a relationship? You and I are very different in that aspect. I went through that aspect as a single person.
Mhm.
So I talk to us when you have a family. It doesn't stop. Like you're going through that, and then also talk to us about, was there any pushback? What was the reaction from the people that were closest to you, that you were spending time, that knew you one way? They just, and I feel like for a lot of people, they don't understand, like they know a person one way, and when they start to spiritually ascend and just change, really heal the parts of themselves that have been detrimental to themselves. However, a lot of people have benefited from it because it's not all bad. When you change, it is a disruption, in my opinion, and an experience.
Yeah, it's really challenging. I'm not even going to lie to you because when you're on a spiritual journey and when you're on a healing journey, you're constantly changing. You're constantly
Yes,
going through new cycles. You're
absolutely.
constantly becoming a new person. You're constantly, there's not one dark night of the soul. It feels like there's many dark nights of the soul that kind of
Wow. Okay, so let's talk. Okay, we'll get into that
constantly,
later. Like
yeah.
what? Yeah.
And so for me as a married man, my wife and I, we really try to focus on communication between the two of us. We
Yes.
would spend hours a day just talking about our days, talking about what we
Mm,
liked, what we didn't like, how we felt about things, what can we do better, what did we mess up on? We were always trying to stay in the loop so that we're always growing together because we're always
right.
changing. Who she is and who I was, we're not staying the same people that we were 8 years
Right.
ago, 10 years ago.
Mm,
And so my spiritual journey has always been very personal for me, and it's always been very vulnerable to me as well. And she was the one that I always confided in about the experiences that I was going
mhm.
through, what I was being challenged with that most people would not understand who
Understand.
didn't
Right.
know me from a close level. And so as we started to kind of grow apart and just grow in different ways, thankfully, as we separated, it was very amicable
I
because of
love
how we
that.
communicated that
Right.
it was like,
Right.
hey, just because we're going through a divorce, we don't have to do it like everybody else does it.
That's right.
Have to be enemies. We don't have to be adversaries. We can
Mm-hmm.
actually stay friends. We can still
Right.
talk. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
healing. You're healing. Let's help each
Mm.
other heal as we
Wow.
figure this way out of each
Yeah.
other's lives in a responsible way. It's not like, oh, all right, whatever you doing you, all right, forget you, like kind of thing. It's like, hey, we're best friends. Can we stay best friends and respect each
Mm.
other through this whole process? And once I kind of stepped away from her, that was when the isolation started because that's when it was just like, okay, I'm getting away from my partner. I'm taking a step back from mom, family members, my
Right.
best friends a little bit. I'm telling everybody I'm going on a journey that I feel called to, that I feel led to. I can't explain it if you haven't been through it.
Mm-hmm.
I can describe it the best way I can, but you still may not get it if you've never had a calling to go in a certain direction that may not make the most logical sense to everybody. And it didn't. And I got a lot of questions, but I just had to trust myself and I had to trust my intuition and I had to trust
Mm-hmm.
where I was being led, even when I didn't have all the answers, even when
That's
it
right.
didn't make the most sense. It was just something that was deep, that was just like, I have to do this. Nobody
Yeah.
has to get it but me
But me. Right.
to work out. And so I just had to go on that journey by myself. And it worked out. And I'm grateful that I did it 100%.
Stay tuned for part 2 with Paul as we delve deeper into his public persona as an actor and online public figure. Subscribe and comment below. Thanks for watching.